Throughout history, brilliant minds have orchestrated magnificent victories. But just as often, arrogance, tunnel vision, or a simple lapse in judgment has led to military blunders so profound, they've altered the course of empires, cost countless lives, and etched themselves into the annals of infamy. Today, we're diving deep into the tactical graveyard, uncovering the top 10 worst military tactics in history, strategies so disastrous, they practically guaranteed defeat. Prepare to witness the moments where ambition collided with reality, and the grand schemes of commandos crumbled into dust. And perhaps, learn a lesson or two about the enduring power of good judgment, and the devastating consequences of its absence. 10. The Maginot Line. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a testament to static thinking in a dynamic world. The Maginot Line. After the brutal trench warfare of World War I, France poured vast resources into constructing an elaborate, seemingly impenetrable defensive line along its border with Germany. It boasted bunkers, artillery emplacements, and underground railways. The logic: force any invading German army to go around it, buying France precious time. The fatal flaw: the Germans did exactly that. They simply bypassed the line, sweeping through the Ardennes forest, a region considered impassable by French planners, and then through Belgium and the Netherlands. The Maginot Line became a multi-billion-dollar monument to strategic short-sightedness, rendering France's formidable defenses utterly useless and leading to its swift collapse in 1940. 9. Kusters' Last Stand. At number 9, we have a classic case of underestimating your enemy and dividing your forces. General George Armstrong Custer's disastrous tactical decisions at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Believing he had found a relatively small Native American encampment, Custer, eager for glory, split his 7th Cavalry Regiment into 3 separate battalions. He then launched a premature, uncoordinated attack on what was, in fact, an enormous gathering of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors. His fragmented forces were overwhelmed one by one. Custer and over 200 of his men were annihilated in what became known as Custer's Last Stand. It was a catastrophic defeat born of overconfidence and a blatant disregard for basic military principles. 8. The Charge of the Light Brigade. Our 8th entry is a stark reminder of the perils of miscommunication and blind obedience. The Charge of the Light Brigade during the Crimean War. Due to a series of muddled orders and misinterpretations, a brigade of British light cavalry was ordered to charge headlong into a valley lined with Russian artillery on 3 sides. Against overwhelming odds and with no support, the cavalry bravely rode into what was clearly a death trap. The result was a devastating rout, with over 2/3 of the brigade either killed, wounded, or captured within minutes. It's a tragic example of how a fatal tactical error can be compounded by a failure to question clearly suicidal commands. 7. The Tudoird Forest Ambush. Coming in at number 7 is an ancient ambush that crippled a superpower, the Battle of the Tudoird Forest. 3 Roman legions, led by Publius Quinctilius Varus, were marching through unfamiliar, densely forested territory in Germania. Despite warnings, Varus ignored the threat posed by the Germanic tribes, particularly Arminius, a former Roman ally who had secretly united the tribes. Arminius expertly lured the Romans into a trap, utilizing the terrain to their advantage. The Germanic warriors ambushed the strung-out Roman columns. The legions, accustomed to open-field battles, were utterly annihilated over several days. This catastrophic defeat halted Roman expansion into Germania and marked one of the empire's most humiliating military setbacks. 6. Operation Market Garden. Our 6th spot goes to a daring but ultimately ill-fated Allied gamble of World War II, Operation Market Garden. The plan was audacious. Use airborne forces to seize a series of bridges in the Netherlands, allowing Brown forces to quickly advance into Germany and end the war by Christmas 1944. The tactical errors were numerous. Overly optimistic intelligence, underestimation of German resistance, and a stretched-out supply line. The key bridge at Arnhem, the bridge too far, proved impossible to hold. German forces quickly counterattacked, isolating the British paratroopers. The operation failed to achieve its objectives, costing thousands of Allied lives and prolonging the war. It was a classic example of an overly complex plan that disregarded the realities of the battlefield. 5. Xerxes' invasion of Greece. At number 5, we witness a colossal naval blunder. Xerxes' invasion of Greece in the Battle of Salamis. The Persian king Xerxes commanded an enormous army and a vast fleet, vastly outnumbering the Greeks. However, his decision to engage the smaller, more agile Greek fleet in the narrow straits of Salamis was a critical tactical error. The confined space negated the Persian numerical advantage, turning their superior numbers into a chaotic jumble. The smaller, more maneuverable Greek triremes were able to ram and sink the larger Persian ships with devastating efficiency. Xerxes, watching from a distance, saw his mighty fleet decimated, a defeat that marked a turning point in the Greco-Persian wars and preserved Greek independence. 4. Napoleon's invasion of Russia. Taking the fourth position is a well-known epic failure. Napoleon's invasion of Russia in 1812. With an army of over 600,000 men, the largest ever assembled at that time, Napoleon aimed to force Russia back into his continental system. His tactical blunders were manifold: an over-reliance on a quick, decisive battle, a disregard for the vast distances and harsh Russian climate, and underestimation of the scorched earth strategy employed by the Russians. The French army was plagued by disease, desertion, and a lack of supplies as it marched deeper into Russia. The brutal Russian winter ultimately proved to be the undoing of the Grande Armée. Of the hundreds of thousands who marched in, only a fraction returned. It was a strategic catastrophe that bled Napoleon's empire dry and signaled the beginning of his downfall. 3. The Battle of Canny. Our bronze medal for worst military tactics goes to the Romans at the Battle of Canny. During the Second Punic War, the Roman Republic assembled an enormous army, estimated to be up to 80,000 strong, to decisively defeat Hannibal's Carthaginian forces. The Roman consuls, Varro and Paulus, adopted a rigid, frontal assault strategy, believing their sheer numbers would overwhelm the enemy. Hannibal, a tactical genius, employed a brilliant double envelopment maneuver. He allowed his center to slowly give way, drawing the Romans deeper into a trap. Then, his cavalry on the flanks swung around, completely encircling the vast Roman army. The result was one of the most devastating defeats in military history, with tens of thousands of Roman soldiers slaughtered in a single day. It was a tragic consequence of inflexible tactics against a truly innovative opponent. 2. The Battle of the Somme. The runner-up, at number 2, is a grim reminder of the futility of attrition warfare, the Battle of the Somme. This World War I offensive, primarily by British and French forces against the Germans, aimed to achieve a breakthrough. The tactic was a massive artillery bombardment followed by waves of infantry attacking across no man's land. The colossal error was the belief that the artillery would destroy the German defenses and barbed wire, clearing the way for the infantry. It didn't. German dugouts protected them from the shelling, and the barbed wire remained largely intact. On the first day alone, over 57,000 British casualties were sustained, a horrific record. The battle dragged on for months, becoming a meat grinder that achieved minimal territorial gains at the cost of over 1 million casualties on all sides. It stands as a chilling example of a tactical approach that failed to adapt to the brutal realities of modern warfare. 1. The Winter War, Soviet invasion of Finland. And finally, our top spot for the worst military tactic that led to shocking defeat: the Soviet Union's initial invasion of Finland during the Winter War. The Soviet Union, a vast superpower, invaded tiny Finland, expecting a quick and easy victory. Their colossal tactical blunder was a complete misjudgment of the terrain, the climate, and the fierce, determined Finnish resistance. The Soviets employed massive, conventional tactics, large armored columns and infantry formations that were utterly unsuited to the deep snow, dense forests, and frozen lakes of Finland. The Finns, outnumbered and outgunned, utilized muddy tactics, small, highly mobile ski troops who isolated and encircled much larger Soviet units, then systematically destroyed them. Soviet tanks were bogged down, supply lines froze, and thousands of soldiers froze to death. What should have been a swift conquest turned into a humiliating, protracted struggle for the Soviets, exposing critical weaknesses in their military and costing them hundreds of thousands of casualties. It was a devastating illustration of how even overwhelming numerical superiority can be rendered useless by a complete failure of tactical adaptation. From the frozen forests of Finland to the sun-baked plains of Canny, these are stories of military folly. Each one a stark reminder that even the most formidable armies can be brought to their knees not just by a stronger enemy, but by their own strategic missteps. What can we learn from these colossal blunders? First, adaptability is paramount. The world changes, and so too must tactics. Relying on outdated methods in a new environment is a recipe for disaster. Second, humility is a virtue. Overconfidence and underestimation of an opponent, no matter how seemingly inferior, almost always lead to painful lessons. History, in its brutal honesty, shows us that the line between triumph and tragedy is often drawn not by the size of an army, but by the wisdom, foresight, and adaptability of its commanders. These aren't just tales of defeat. They are powerful warnings, echoing across centuries, reminding us that even the most ambitious plans can be shattered by a single, fatal folly. What do you think was the worst tactical blunder in history? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this journey through military blunders insightful, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more historical insights. Until next time, remember, the past holds lessons for us all.